Julia Gillard has just flown out of WA after spending the last 24 hours defending her new asylum seeker policy. The government now plans to process asylum seekers offshore. Where? Well, that's unclear, but East Timor is firming as the desired location. And when? Well, we don't know that either. What we do know is that the new Prime Minister is ticking off key policy announcements in the lead up to the federal poll. To get a clearer picture of the asylum seeker policy, I was joined earlier by the Immigration Minister, Chris Evans. Chris Evans, welcome to Stateline.
Thank you.
I'm a bit confused about exactly what the new government's policy is. There's been talk of East Timor, Papua New Guinea, even some people have thrown in Nauru again. So where are these people actually going to go?
Well, it's about an initiative that looks to solve the issue of people using people smugglers in the region. We've obviously started a conversation with East Timor, but it's about a regional solution that says you don't get an advantage by sailing to Australia, by employing a people smuggler. You will get fair treatment in the region. There's a protection framework in the whole region which allows you to apply for asylum, have your claims heard and be treated according to your need. You don't need to, if you like, get a processing advantage by taking that dangerous journey to Australia. So the location of the processing centre is one small part of it, and it doesn't really matter, but we are engaged with discussions with East Timor.
It doesn't matter maybe in terms of that bigger picture, but it does matter for surely the government now to differentiate itself from what the Howard government did, which yourself and Julia Gillard was so outraged by at the time.
No, that's right, but I mean there are very key differences. I mean, one, we're looking to honour the Refugees Convention, not escape it, as the Pacific Solution was designed to do. Two, we're looking to be engaged with a country that is a signatory of the Refugees Convention. It's also designed as a regional solution, not just about Australia dumping people on an island and trying to convince them, the world and Australians, that we're not going to grant them refugee status. As you know, most people off the Pacific Solution ended up settling in Australia or New Zealand.
So is this a concession this week that what you were doing previously failed?
No, look, I think it's a recognition that we've seen an increase in activity, there's no question, but we've had 4 waves of unauthorised arrivals before. It's always been driven by war or persecution in areas who have a sea route to Australia. So it was China, it was Vietnam, it was the Middle East before. Recently we've seen people from Sri Lanka and from Afghanistan coming through.
Right, but ultimately, how could it not be seen as a failure? That's what I don't understand. Obviously you don't change things that are working well, do you?
No, but that interpretation is through a prism that somehow we weren't ever going to get other sets of asylum seekers coming to Australia. The reality is we're seeing a surge around the world of people leaving Afghanistan. We get about 2% of them, and we've seen an increase, as we did between 1999 and 2001, as we saw on 2 previous occasions. And it's just about finding the right response to allow people to be treated fairly without them having to take that dangerous journey.
Right. Well, so why was the previous one then not the right response now? Is it? I mean, it's surely the push factors as such haven't changed, have they? The war in Afghanistan, the Sri Lankan issue, obviously that's still going on. So there was something. What was that factor that prompted you to change it, other than fear of electoral disaster?
Oh well, I think it's fair to say that the numbers have increased to the point where we had to examine what was happening and how we could respond. We spent an awful lot of money on border protection. We've got more boats and more planes out there than ever before. So we've been successfully intercepting the boats and taking people to Christmas Island and doing the health, security and identity checks. But no doubt we recognise we had a problem and that more people were seeking to make that journey.
So was it an incentive to come to Australia via boat?
Well, it's an incentive in the sense that all Western democracies are. As I say, we get a very small percentage of people seeking asylum. Most go to Europe or the North Americas. So we get our share of the problem. And in Australia, the debate's always been about as if this is a domestic issue, and that if it's driven by domestic policy concerns. The reason people stopped coming in 2001 or it slowed after that was the Taliban fell in Afghanistan. 4 million Afghanis went home.
But the thing that changed in 2001 surely was, and following that during the Howard government, was the perception that the government was in control of our border and the domestic fears of people coming via boat. So do you Do you take personal responsibility over your time as the Immigration Minister that people feared that we weren't in control, the government wasn't in control of the borders?
Look, I understand that people were concerned about it, and I think that's what Julia Gillard tried to do the other day is actually say, look, I understand your concerns, I understand your fears, and we don't like people coming in an unauthorised way. I mean, our immigration rules and regulations designed to prevent that. But it's equally true that under international law, people who seek protection here are allowed to arrive here and have those claims assessed.
So is it possible to have a humane and yet strict, successful border protection policy in Australia?
I think that's the challenge. I mean, what the Labor Party is saying and what this government is saying is we're not going to lose the values which we think reflect Australian values. We don't want to lock kids up behind barbed wire. We don't want to punish people for seeking asylum. But we do want to say we don't want you arriving this way. We do want to say you'll have your claims assessed, but if you're not a refugee, you'll be returned. You know, and I returned someone to Iraq for the first time in 10 years this week. It's tough because people are desperate to get a new life here, but we assess whether they're refugees, and if they're not, we return them.
Is this issue going to be solved before we go to the polls?
Look, this is an issue for the world for years to come. Wherever you have war or persecution or people being dispossessed, you'll have them seeking asylum and moving. So,
just finally, how do you measure your success? Less boats? The government's success now?
Well, I think, no, it's about trying to find a lasting solution that says there's no advantage in getting on a boat, but you will get your chance to have your claims assessed anywhere in the region, removing the incentive for the people smugglers, stamping out people smuggling, and then allowing people to have their claims assessed fairly. That's why it's a longer-term solution. It's not a quick fix. All the rhetoric about towing boats back out to sea, that's just totally impractical. It sounds good, but it doesn't give you a result. And what the Prime Minister said, I'm going to try and make this work. It's not going to be a quick fix, but this is a principled, long-term solution that's worth pursuing.
Okay, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.